Sorry?
You're on.
Oh, we're on.
Yeah, you're on. You're on.
No, we're on. We're on.
Come on, get on with it.
No, of course. I'm sorry, I hadn't realised. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah. So, hi YouTube, and welcome to back to my channel. What I wanted to talk about was sort of black and white. You know. I changed the batteries here. There you go. Oh, that's not quite right. Come on. There we go. No, still not black. There you go. Black and white. Thank you very much indeed. But not just black and white. Just a little bit different. Black and white with a difference. Yeah. Just like this. Yeah, a little bit like that. So basically, I was messing with an image of mine recently, and I just couldn't quite get it right. I knew there was an image there. I liked the shot. I played around with it. I changed the colour of it, changed a lot of the tonal values. Of course, you don't want to do too much because you lose the image entirely, but I definitely knew there was something there, and it was one of those things that I kept coming back to. And eventually I realised what it was that I needed to do to make this image work, or to make it the best it could be, for me at least anyway. And what it was messing with the sort of the lighter tones in the black and white image. And what I mean by that is, well, this really. Yeah. Does it work in a moving image? I don't know. Let me show you what I mean anyway, and I'll show you how I've done it. Run the intro. Intro. Oh, come on. Intro. So basically, this is the image that I took. This is the raw file that I took. It was 2.5 second exposure, f20, ISO 320 I think it was, and I had a polarizing filter on as well. It was all in manual on a tripod, and I got this shot. It was late. It was getting later on in the evening, so the light was just basically failing. But obviously, with a longer exposure, you can do some stuff with it. I like the composition. I suppose at the time, if I remember, I was in a bit of a hurry, so I probably didn't get the best out of what I wanted from this shoot, from being there. Having said that, this has been a bit of a weird image for me, because I kind of knew there was something there. I always had the feeling that this could work somehow, and it depends on the edit. Now, people might argue that and go, you've either got the shot or you haven't. I'm a bit more. I come up my imagery from a bit more of a, I suppose, a digital illustrative perspective at times, because I kind of do a lot of different digital work and illustration-based graphics in Photoshop. So with my photography, it kind of, if I know there's something there, if I can make an image or push an image one direction or another to make it the best it can be, I'm going to do it. I'm going to dip my toe in that water and see where it takes me, sort of thing. So this is the raw file. So what I really wanted to do, I've saved some kind of preset layers here just to show you kind of the process, because I'm not going to take you through the whole process of how I got to the black and white. I've probably saved that for a video for a different day, but I just want to show you what I did with the black and white. Once I was happy with the black and white image that I got, kind of what I did to it to make it the image that I was pleased with. So yeah, this is the raw file. So the first thing that I did basically was to do a bit of a colour correction. Now all of this is done in Photoshop. Nothing was done in Lightroom. It's all been edited in Photoshop. So the first thing I wanted to do basically was correct the curve on the horizon line. There was a slight curve, it was just a slight lens distortion because of the wide angle lens I was using. So I've just brought that so the horizon line's pretty straight, and done a bit of a colour correction to it using various filters and sort of techniques and what have you, and then sort of pushed it up. There's an area here, if you can just see, just zoom in. There's an area just here. I didn't like this, I don't know what it was, a floating log or something, but it was something that really didn't ought to have been there, and there's a tiny few spots on my sensor as well, so I've just removed them out and brightened the whole image up, and sort of ended up with something like this here. And I like this image. I do like it. I kind of like, you know, I've brought some of the colour into play. I've done various bits and pieces to it, and I quite like it. But it wasn't really sort of. It was okay, you know, and I didn't want it to be okay. I knew it could be a little bit better. And then I thought, well, it's quite moody. I like all that light in the background, and a lot of the foreground. You can see, like with using sort of the polarizer, you can see that I've been able to cut through the water, and you can see the sort of the base of the lake and the stones on the lake. I do like that, but I kind of wasn't all that bothered about it as well. It was kind of neither here or there to me, and you know, I've messed with the image a little bit and not been best pleased with it. So I kind of turned to black and white to see what I could do with, you know, doing a black and white version of this, which is kind of a running joke really in the photography world, that if it's not working in colour, turn it to black and white and you've got an image. Is there some truth in that? Or maybe there is, I don't know. But you know, we're going to have a play with it anyway. We'll have a look and see if it makes any difference. So this was the first treatment of black and white that I did. After having sort of removed bits and pieces, like I said, I removed that log that was in the water on the left hand side. I put a bit of a vignette on it here. It's quite a strong vignette. It sort of channels you into the image now. You kind of sort of move to the centre of the image and kind of follow that jetty through. But for me, it just still wasn't working. It still wasn't quite right. I wasn't quite pleased with it. So I went back and did a different treatment from the main image again, and sort of ended up here. And as you can see, I've kind of lost a lot of that sort of foreground detail now, of all those stones on the bottom of the lake. Basically gone. I like the fact that you can still see, you know, some of the light and under some of the shadows, some of the reflections in the water of the jetty here. I kind of like that because it leads you down to the right hand side of the image. So it still means that your eye kind of follows the image around. And I like this, but it still just wasn't working. So what I decided to do was, and this is the thing, this is the purpose of this little video really, is to show you this technique. So what I did, basically I went into adjustment layers and made a selective colour layer, and the treatment that I made is this one. So if I just lace this over the top, so what I've done is in the white areas of the image, I've basically introduced some colour. And how I've done that, if I just open this dialog box to show you the various settings in the white, so I've tweaked the cyan, I've brought it over to the left hand side, so -24. I've taken the magenta up by +1, massive change there, yeah. And I brought the yellow up as well, and you know, that just puts a bit of colour in the white areas. So if I just turn this off, turn the preview with this off again, that's where we were, and that's what I've introduced. Now, when I was playing with this, I thought that really works. I quite like it. It's kind of you're introducing false colour into the image. That's fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. So what it was I put a bit of yellow and a bit of red back into the white areas, and then what I wanted to do is introduce some blues, some blue tonal values in the grey. So if you go back in here and look at the neutrals, I've just messed with the cyan. I've messed with these sliders again. I've not really touched, you know, I've left the black central. The black basically shows you how much it affects the overall light and dark areas of the image. So I've left that central. I've not messed with that. But certainly, you know, with the neutrals, I've got +2 here. So you can see as you change it, you know, you can bring certain colours, the pinks all the way over to the blues in this. And I've not done too much, that's sort of +2, and it's just introduced a little bit of blue into the sky, into the clouds at the back. Still essentially looks like a black and white image, but you're just tweaking and bringing bits and pieces into the image. And I love kind of how that works. And again, the magenta, I've got +2 on the magenta in neutrals. If I just whack that over, you can see kind of how much you can change it. So I'm just tweaking tiny little bits. I'm not doing much at all. And then again with the yellows, it's -3, so I've brought the slider to the left hand side. Again, you can see again, if you sort of tweak it harder, you can see just how that affects the image. Again, if I go back into the whites, I'm minus 24 on cyan, so just remember that. But you can see you can make it stronger, and you take it over the other side. You obviously bringing sort of more of the blues into play. Let's just take that back. Minus 25. Magenta +1, so I haven't done too much with that. Let's just take it over. You can see you can bring a lot more pink into play. It's too harsh, obviously, and this is what I mean about being subtle. It really is just about putting a tiny bit of colour back into this black and white image. And the yellows I've done quite strongly, so +21. You can take that a bit harder if you like. You can see that the yellow's coming through a lot stronger there. You just want it, basically what I wanted to do, I wanted it to look natural. Now that's a bit of a weird thing to say about a black and white image, but I wanted it to look like that's what I photographed at the time. And that was the colour in the sky. And I think, you know, doing it that way, you kind of introducing a bit of subtle colour back into the black and white image. You're making it look natural in a sense. You're making it look like it would be there. It would be that way. It looks like an evening that has that colour in the sky, sort of thing. So you don't want to do too much. And have I messed with the blacks? Let's have a look if I've done anything to the blacks. I've just, again, the magenta and the cyan, I've just tweaked those a little bit as well. And you end up with something like this. The actual image that I did before was this one. I think just slight different treatment on it than the one I've ended up with in this tutorial, but very similar nonetheless, you know. And that's kind of what I was trying to achieve, just trying to have a play with the lighter areas of the image in order to sort of do something a bit different. So what have we ended up with? We've come from here, which is kind of, for me, there was something there, but I wasn't happy, you know. And then taking it through just a slight editing process, I've ended up with this, which I'm best pleased with. I just love it. Actually, I really love it. As an image, I think that is just beautiful. It really sits well with me. Your eye still travels around the whole image. It takes you off to the corners. I mean, this light area of this cloud come down here, brings you to this corner, follows down. You've got a thirds horizon line. You've got the jetty, which is kind of central to the image and then pulls you off to the right hand side at the bottom. And you've got this lovely dip coming through the sky that brings you to sort of the thirds line where the horizon line sits. And for me, it just kind of all works. And like I said, I knew there was something there. I knew there was an image to be had. It was just about, sometimes it's about leaving it, sometimes it's about coming back to it and just having a bit more of a play. But this is certainly a technique that I think really fetched this image back. It really gave it something different, you know. So my advice to you, if you want to have a bash, I don't know how you achieve your black and white images. Obviously you can do it in Lightroom. There's plenty of settings you can try in there and then export the image into Photoshop. You can actually do it all in Photoshop. I just quickly, I'll show you one of the best ways I go about this. Let me just go back to this image here. So you can use, let's just show you quickly how I would go about it. You can use actually the black and white layer options, so you can do a kind of a, you can use the black and white layer options and start messing with all the sort of the color values and messing it around like that, and bringing it, tweaking it backwards and forwards and trying to get something that you want. I'm just going to delete that because that's not usually the way I go about it. I go about it a different way. So what I would actually use is I go to the channel mixer. Okay, I do it on a layer. You can actually do it on the image if you like, but I do it as a layer, adjustment layer, and press monochrome. Okay, and then I deal with the RGB channels then, and just kind of tweak the image until I get something that I like. And it's just about playing around with those tonal values and sort of messing with it till you get something that you like. But I find this a really good way, a really kind of nice way of getting a black and white in Photoshop. Like I say, Lightroom does it as well. Maybe it does a better job, maybe it does a different job. That's for you to decide. You know, there's plenty of tools at your disposal in terms of, you know, sort of the programs you can use to do these things. But in Photoshop, once you've had your black and white image, once you've got what you like, you can have a look maybe then at, you know, what I've showed you using this selective colour to just punch a little bit of subtle colour back into a black and white image, and then you can save it out and print it off or share it to Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, wherever you go with it, Flickr, you know, and show off your image and be proud of it that way. And which you know, it's just a nice way of bringing an image back where it's not exactly working in the first place. So you can do it on all sorts of different images. I've tried it on other black and white images as well. You know, it's nice to play with. It's nice to have a bash with. It doesn't work on all images. I think you know, like anything, you know, it's a certain technique that will work with some images and perhaps not so much with others. Have a play with it, see what you think, see what you come up with. But it's certainly, for me, it's certainly made this image. It kind of really sort of changed this image and made it something that I knew was there. If that makes sense. I kind of knew there was something there to be had, and that's definitely how it ended up at the end of the day, which I'm pleased with. It's all good. So I hope this has been useful. Yeah. Have a bash with it. Yeah. And so yeah, have a play. See what you come up with. See what you can come up with. And you know, and what I'll always say when you're playing with Photoshop is save the PSD file at the end with all your layers and all your workings, just in case you want to go in and retweak some of the things that you've done already. If you want to sort of change a tonal value, certainly if you're doing things for clients, if you've done a specific image for a client, you know, you're pleased with it, you present it to them and they go, oh, I really like that, but you know, those pinks could just be a bit more yellow. If you've got to go and do the whole thing again, bit of a mistake. So save it as a PSD file. That saves your layers for you. Don't flatten it, in other words, and then you can come back to it and do some more tweaks and do something slightly different to it, you know, the second time around. So just a good bit of advice for you there. So anyway, that's a bit of a tutorial from me for one of the things that I like to do with Photoshop with black and white images. Hope you've enjoyed it. So thanks for dropping by. Really appreciate you being here. I hope you find this useful. Go and have a play with it and see what you make of it, and let me know your thoughts, you know, in the comments if you found it good fun or found it useful, or you know, if you've had a bash and think it's going to be part of your sort of editing arsenal from now on. I'd love to hear from you and have your feedback. That'd be superb. Press subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely hit that bell for updates because there'll be more videos coming soon. And just thanks for stopping by. So I'm going to get back to my tunes now anyway. So yeah, well, I'll see you later. Take care.